All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We are back. It took a little bit of time to get back to this one, but we've frankly been super busy. So this is Quasar with Fries. This is our podcast. My name is Rich. This is Wayne.
Hey, guys.
This is episode 13. Thank you for joining us. We are going to try sort of a new format. We have in the past been kind of covering multiple topics and droned on and on, beating on your eardrums for an hour and a half at a time. And those that listen to that, thank you. But for those that weren't and maybe would like a shorter episode, we're going to try just covering like a singular yet meaty topic.
And hopefully it'll let us talk more often and not feel like, oh, we need to block out
fill the space or
2 hours worth of time, whereas we can hop on for 30 or 45 minutes pretty easily.
Although outside of this podcast, you and I have accidentally had like 2-hour phone conversations or meeting conversations just because
constantly the planning quote unquote the programming sessions for these are honestly like way longer than any episode that we've done. The one last week that was, or the last episode that we did, I feel like was a breaking point, and we went an hour and 30 to 40 minutes, and we were like, we probably, I actually went back and listened to the full episode, but I'm biased. But I think that was kind of like, we were like, we should break these up and try to be a little bit more topical in terms of how we choose things.
I think we're a little after we got deep into it, we were probably by an hour and 20 minutes like starting to run out of energy. It's like it does take mental energy to stay on top of the stuff. We're like, I don't know. What do you think about something random right now? I don't know. Let's bore people to tears. Okay.
Right. Sounds like a great formula for a winning podcast.
So today's topic is something we are all familiar with. Some of us are one. Some of us are annoyed with ones, and some of us are one and are annoyed with people with opposing views. Anyway,
yes, exactly.
Technology fanboys and fanboys, fan people, fan girls, whatever you want to call them. People that blindly take companies that they like and brands that they like. They take their decision making like personally, like their family's being attacked or something. Anyway, this whole thing came about when I was on Facebook, and for the sake of OWC, I'm in a lot of groups just kind of monitoring music related, camera related, everything in between. And I was in a Sony group, and this is when the new Sony A1 Mark II came out. Are they called Mark II, or is that a Canon thing, or is it just Sony A1 II?
I think it's a camera thing.
Okay.
Like, typically, if you're keeping the model name the same and not changing it.
Like I have a Canon.
The A2, the A1. So they can't change the name is A1, and they can't change the 1 to a 2.
Sure.
So then you have to start noting the generation some other
But you
way.
said Mark II.
Mark II.
So Canon. So
you can say A1 II or Mark II.
I wasn't sure if they did the same thing because my Canon is a 5D Mark III. My still camera. So I don't know if the Mark thing was like a Canon.
I think that they might. I don't know what Canon does anymore, if they still put Mark in there.
Yeah.
But Sony does not put Mark, but I think it's an implied Mark.
Okay. So implied. So that's pretty.
I don't know. You can say it A1 II or A1 Mark II.
Sometimes I don't understand the nomenclature and the naming schemes for some of these companies. Like
I'm sure some of the people we're talking about today would fight you on this.
Oh, I'm sure. And that's fine. You can just totally punch your screen while you watch me in video. It just totally works for me. But you can't charge me or expense your monitor to my bank account. So, there you go. Anyway, so I was in the Sony group. The new Sony A1 II or Mark II came out, and a bunch of people were stoked, and just having normal back and forth, active conversations, reciprocating, blah, blah, blah. And then they bubbled up
the fun police
to the top. Yeah, the wet blanket of the internet people shows up, starts trashing not just the camera, even though they haven't even used the dang thing yet.
Right.
They start trashing what features were missing and what new features were added. And then other people were trying to defend it. And they're getting in arguments, and there's literally personal attacks. They're saying that I can't believe Sony did this to me. And you're like, bro,
it's just one of those things where people see someone enjoying something, and I think this is the crux of this episode. People, and it's weird that a lot of the places you find this are communities that are kind of like the foundation of the community is an understanding that we all enjoy this thing or
Together.
this product.
Yeah.
Right? That's what kind of brings us together is I like Sony cameras, or I like black and white photography, or I like Fujifilm cameras, or I like whatever it might be. And you bring all these people together, and people are like trying to enjoy things and talk about things, and inevitably
Yeah.
someone's going to come in and be like, actually, this is bad and all of you are stupid for thinking it's not bad, and I will
100%.
fight each and every one of
Yeah.
you
Here's my
until I
address.
die.
Come to my house and I will fight you. Okay, with a bat.
I will physically fight you. That actually
It's
this,
too
but yeah, the Facebook post you posted says, "Saw the Sony A1 Mark II specs. No thanks." What a lackluster announcement.
I
Womp
know.
womp. Like,
It's like, well,
okay, cool,
then
cool.
go away. Like people feel very compelled if they don't that old rule that most of our parents gave us, which is, if you don't have something nice to say, and you don't have to agree for it to be nice, but if you don't have something nice to say, then basically shut the up, right? So, and in this case, people are like, I'm just here to correct people, like especially when it comes to technical stuff. There's such a barrage of people trying to outsmart each other that probably just weren't validated enough when they were children for being smart already. And now they're like, you know what? It is my charter to take my inferiority complex out on the world, and it's like,
Right, right,
come on, man. Like, who cares?
right.
Like, and instead of getting in these groups and just complaining about cameras and things that bring people joy all day, why don't you go outside and actually with your camera and start shooting
Mhm.
some photos instead of being a brat?
Well,
Like,
and we've talked about this on previous episodes, right? Where there's, I don't know, there's like a group of people out there. The person who said this in their kind of like profile or whatever, it's noted that they are a Sony A7S III kind of shooter. All right. The A7S III is not an A7 or an A7 IV, right? If you look
right.
at like the way that Sony markets and names its cameras not kind of, it's a lot confusing. But anyway, like the A7 series is different from the A9 series, is different from the A1. And the A1 Mark II is the latest. A1 is like flagship. Like that's Sony's best, most groundbreaking camera. The A7S III is mainly a camera for video shooters. Like video shooters gravitate toward it for
Hmm.
very specific reasons. The A7 IV is more of a it can do video and it can do photography, but it's more of a photography
Yeah.
or maybe sort of a hybrid camera. But the A7S III is like that's a video shooting
Right.
camera.
Right. It was built
And
around
this
that.
is
Yeah.
it's kind of a perfect that it came from this person because a lot of people wanted the A1 Mark II to be more of a video camera or to introduce like more video type capability.
Hmm.
And so, and then along with that, a lot of people were hoping that it would also add in the global shutter feature, which basically eliminates rolling shutter kind of problems, which would be super handy for video.
Yep.
But like, so again, they were hoping for more video. Plus, the A1 Mark II, the new camera that everyone got upset about, or a lot of people did, it has the same 50 megapixel sensor as the previous A1. So this is a $6,500 camera body, and it's the flagship. And I think a lot of people were just like super excited to see what Sony was going to like, how they were going to push things forward. And in the end, it's not. There's a lot of people that are not even going to be pushed to upgrade from an A9, which
Right.
is slightly lower in the whole uh, hierarchy of Sony cameras.
Right.
Then you've got some video shooters who are like, I wouldn't even upgrade from my A7S III for this thing for $6,500. So, like professionally, there are things to gripe about.
Sure.
But for what this camera is, which I would still say it's still more for still photographers than anybody else. Sony was very clearly like, this is who we sell this camera to.
Right.
And so, like, global shutter, that would have been really cool, but it would have come at the cost of dynamic range. And we're not willing to sacrifice that
Yeah.
on a serious photography camera. So, again, making cameras and making products is hard. It's a lot about trade-offs and making sure that you're not like introducing things that are going to make life harder
Yeah.
for your existing customers just to attract new customers. But then that's when you go into this whole kind of tribal thing where it's not enough for people to go, I'm going to stick with my A7S III until I see something a little bit more compelling. It's no, if you like this, you are the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
You are you are the reason that I get up in the morning angry because you've got Sony believing that they're doing good things and actually they're doing very, very bad things. It's just really
Yeah.
bizarre
I just don't understand
behavior.
like the personal response,
Mm,
like just deeply personal, like if Apple comes out with a new product, like, oh my gosh, the buttons over here, this whole company is going downhill right now, and you're just
yeah,
like,
right.
what are you talking about? And like, yeah, not only did they do this, they did this other thing 4 years ago to the MacBook Pro. And I mean, it's like they were physically assaulting my firstborn, like,
Yeah.
geez. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, it's just a freaking gadget. You don't even work there. You don't
Well, if you
understand
change
why
it
they're making things,
if you change it too much, people get mad. If you don't change it enough,
people
people
get
get
mad.
mad.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what the weirdest thing to me is that we are so problem 1, we are so kind of caught up in there were a lot of people that were really hoping to give Sony $7,000. And then Sony was like, this is really more for if you have an A1, you probably don't really need it. You might want it. If you can justify it, cool. If it's a tax write off or whatever, there's a lot of those people out there. Like, I
Yep.
already have an A1. I want the latest A1. I'm
Right.
upgrading.
Right.
But it's kind of like, yeah, if you have an A9 and you really like global shutter, then yeah, this isn't the camera for you. But like, instead of just being like, cool, all right, thanks, Sony. It's like, and not even thanks. There's no thing, just like, all right, cool, maybe next time.
Yeah.
No, it's like, I wanted to spend my $7,000 and these idiots can't even design a camera that can, that is worthy of my
Yes.
$7,000. And it's like, and then beyond that, so you've got people who are dying to spend money. And then you've got people, and these are my favorites. You've got people who were never going to be able to buy this camera,
Yes.
who
Got all kinds of to say about it.
who are like, now they see an opportunity to justify why they don't have the cool thing that they secretly wish they have, but have made
Right.
it part of their identity to be like, nah, I don't have the latest thing because all you idiots are spending way too much money when you could just make this setup work.
Right. Yeah.
Um, just really,
I don't care about
really strange behavior
I
for
just don't
community.
understand everybody's like intense frustration with other people's opinions about gear and what
Yeah.
companies are doing. Like I said, you
Yeah.
don't work there, dude. You're not in product marketing doing competitive analysis and like surveying filmmakers and photographers and like making decisions based on that. You're just sitting out there being a bitch, and what you could be doing is you could be in these groups being constructive and yeah, bring your opinion, be like, yeah, it doesn't totally work for me, and I don't understand why they didn't do this or did that. That's
But
cool. It's not the
anger
camera for me, but like legit anger and frustration and like personally like
or
assailing people in a Facebook group, like
coming in and then just being like, "This is not a good camera," is insane. It's
yeah.
still one of the
You
most
you go build a
technologically
camera then.
advanced
Yeah. You go design and build a camera, bro.
it's
Go
still
for it.
one of the most technologically advanced cameras that's
It's
ever been
insane.
released.
Yeah.
But it did, and then you get Reddit posts after the
Oh
announcement.
yeah. Yeah.
And the Reddit post will be titled, "Am I the only one who's happy about the A1 Mark II?" And it's like, please don't hurt me. I would just like to espouse an opinion
Yeah.
inside of our, and again, the subreddit is our Sony Alpha.
Yep. Yep.
This is a safe space,
Yep.
right? And it's like you've got a person coming and going, please don't hurt me or make fun of me. I just wanted to kind of be like, oh, and then it's like, here's another weird thing about some of these subreddits is that um you've got like you can't just post a photo to Sony Alpha, because Sony Alpha is like in the Reddit community. It's like you can ask questions, you can
Mhm.
post photos. So there's like different types of content that you should expect if you're following this subreddit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just going to see, here's a photo I took with this lens and camera body combo,
Yep.
or something else. Or someone will post a photo and people will be like, what lens and camera combination did you
Yeah.
use
A
to achieve this?
conversation. We're just having a
Yes.
conversation. Yep.
And then someone will be like, the highlights are too low and the shadows look terrible and blah 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 blah. And someone goes, "Cool, I wasn't really."
Trying to do any, I was in auto mode and I just got my first camera and this is what I'm using,
Or I edited this photo because the way that I wanted to edit it, and I
Right.
don't care what you think.
Yeah. I didn't
And so
ask
then
you
that
for that
person will
opinion.
get
Yeah.
mad. The
Yep.
person who gave the critique will get mad. And so now, if on this post that I'm looking at right now, am I the only one that is happy about the A12? There's a label that says critique wanted. So now you've got like, people just can't keep their thoughts to themselves
Yeah.
to such a degree that you're having to use like labels so that you don't start like fights in the middle of these communities, because just people are so I mean, like, if someone edits a photo a certain way and it's just not my cup of tea, I'm not gonna go in. I spend 5 minutes going like, I would have done this and I would have
Oh,
done that, and
dude.
then it would have looked like how I like a photo to look,
Right. Which defeats the whole purpose of creativity.
of creativity.
Yeah. Like
It's so that we have different
I see
outlooks
the
and
same
aesthetics.
things in music. So I'm in a couple Logic Pro groups. I would consider myself to be a beginner to intermediate producer engineer type, but I would say leaning towards beginner because I'm more of a musician than I am an engineer. And you go in there and I feel so terrible, man, because there's like these people in there, they're brand new to Logic. They just moved out of GarageBand. Now they're like, oh, wow, there's a bunch of stuff, other things going on. There's new fundamentals I need to learn now about recording.
Mhm.
And you go in there and and the group, the whole point of this particular group is to just share a song that you tried to mix yourself and how does it sound? And that's it. And dude, people like, there's a few people that are cool. And even if the question comes off as a stupid one to a pro or even an intermediate person, at least some people are mostly nice and they're like, yeah, I feel like you could have separated the kick drum from the bass guitar a little bit better, blah, blah, blah. And that's cool. That's useful information. And then you even give them some solutions to that. But unfortunately, like 70% of the people are like, dude, that guitar solo sucked. I'm like, do you know what group this is, dude? It has nothing to do with my playing or my ability. I'm trying to understand if you
Right.
guys can hear all the instruments. Are they panned in a way that everything sticks out how it like this is why I'm here is to learn stuff. And so more and more often lately, unfortunately, in some of these music groups, I see announcements from people that are like, you know what? I give up. I'm leaving this group. Like I tried to just get some help. I'm only like 2 months into learning how to use Logic, and this group is called Logic for Beginners. And a bunch of pros decided to join so that they could either be helpful or so they could show people
Or
how smart
just
and
shit on
aptly they are.
yeah, just shit
Like
on absolutely anything anyone's trying to do,
it's
and it's
like,
kind of
dude,
like, you've got a person here who's being super vulnerable and sharing with you something that they've
yes,
created.
yes,
Ostensibly, you would want to encourage them in that pursuit, not. And that's what I'm, and I think it's more of like, it's not, the problem is not that you're offering critique. It's that often you're offering critique when it wasn't asked for,
yes.
or you're doing so in just such a harsh
Yeah,
way.
it's the delivery, and it's like it's okay to critique somebody, but what I try to do is if I'm gonna have something that could be perceived as negative or a criticism, I always try to follow it up with, "Here's 2 to 3 other things you could try to alleviate
Right.
that issue,"
Here's what I did like.
constructive criticism, and then also just cap it with, like, something encouraging, dude. It's real easy to go, "Hey, man, good effort, seriously, I think the guitars need to be worked on a little bit, but I think you're on your way." Just say one thing that's nice. And there's so many people on the internet, I would say, I don't know, 80% of them that just are practically incapable of saying nice things to strangers. in
Yeah.
online communities. I don't know
Right, well, there's
what
that
the hell it
distance,
is.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think some of the I think some of it is we've lost a little bit of the common decency that we used to share with one another,
Yeah.
and then I think
It's pretty brazen right now.
I think the reason that that is, even if you're talking about in-person interactions, I think a lot of that is because everybody is so just attuned to how they speak to people
Right.
as an anonymous internet user.
Right.
And I mean, we're not going to get into kind of like, and thus, the here lies the evidence for the travails of our society. But like, I think it's more of a if you're in a community, try to start thinking about like the community you want to be part of. Do you want to be part of a community that it just exists to tear down and make fun of things that aren't up to community standards? Is that what you want your community to be about? You only want your community to
Yeah.
be about I never want to see crappy photos pop up on this feed, or I never want to see this type of photo pop
Yeah,
up
in a
on this feed.
beginner photography group. You're
It's
like,
oh
they're
my
gonna
gosh,
be
and the fact
crappy,
that
dude. Come
the
on.
fact that it was for beginners is just like
Yeah, that
that is a person who is literally just looking for a fight
yeah.
that is going in and behaving that way.
I mean,
But in like in
yeah.
other communities, like and look, the Sony Alpha like subreddit or whatever, the 90% of the posts are fantastic and you learn stuff and it's a place to share news and to share techniques and stuff like that. And I would just say it's like it's a small percentage.
Yeah.
But it's whenever you get these announcements like this, and we're talking about cameras, but you like Rich said earlier, you could really extend it to Apple and Android,
Anything. Yeah.
really anything. And any of these kind of like products become ideological like tokens and some kind of like ideological warfare
Yeah.
between kind of like, who are Apple users? Well, Apple or iOS users are typically wealthier. They spend more money on the platform. They're this, they're that. Android users, there's far more of them, but there's more profit on the iOS side because those users actually spend more money, et
Yeah.
cetera. So, but again, at the end of the day, what that tells me is not that one group is better than the other. Now, if it comes to who you're trying to make money off of, there's one group that might be better than the other.
Sure.
But from an ideological standpoint, they're both extremely valid. I
Yep.
don't want to spend money on phone stuff. I want my operating system
Yeah.
to hold all of the functionality and efficiency that I need, ergo Android.
Yep.
Or I want apps and tools, and I wanna spend money on stuff, and I wanna have a really nice looking phone, and I wanna be part of this kind of, like, identify with the creator culture over here, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Yep.
There's no right answer.
Right.
It's just really cool that we have the option to
Of even
suit
doing
our
that.
yeah, of our
Totally.
personal, like, productivity. We
Yeah.
can tailor that to how we think and process the world.
Yep.
That's super cool. You should want more of those options. You shouldn't be, like, arguing with the other and hoping the other goes out of business or one side wins or whatever else.
Yeah.
And I think it makes even less sense when you talk about the fighting that goes on within these communities.
Yeah. People it's almost like people don't want to have a positive experience. Like they're just like you're supposed to be here to like because you're with other people, like-minded people that share the joys of whatever it is you're talking about. But you come in there like a schoolyard bully, who's pissed off at his dad. Sorry guys that you have daddy issues, but like don't take it out on everybody else. In fact, you get what you give in life, dude. So if you're going to bring that to the table, you're going to just have a life like that, offline. You're going to have a life like that. It's
Yes.
like,
It's this comes down to conversations and the types of conversations. Like, if you go into every online conversation as a combatant,
yeah,
there's a high likelihood you're gonna, like, come into every conversation in real life as a combatant. And is that what you wanna
yeah,
do? Is that what you do you wanna spend your time just being combative for the sake
yeah.
of being combative?
Then you got
No. Like
it's the keyboard warrior mentality. You're like, I'm too shy or insecure to say these things to somebody in public. So I'm going to sit
yeah,
here like and
yeah.
I'm going to wear my armchair ass t-shirt and just like dive into all of these communities and start stirring it up. And trolls have been around for a while. Whatever, I don't care about that. But
And it's not
you
limited
know,
to like the tech.
no,
I
we're just
think
talking about that because of where it came from initially, the
I
combo.
do
But
think though the tech, a lot of this stuff, like think about a lot of the ideological warfare. Think of a lot of like the touch points, right?
yeah,
Uh, PlayStation versus Xbox, that's
yep,
tech, right?
yep,
Apple versus Android,
yep.
that's tech.
You got
In the old
Macs.
days, it was Nintendo and Sega.
Yeah,
That's tech.
you got
Macs and
Macs and
PC.
Windows. Yeah, Mac and PC.
I don't, but so I guess maybe, and then, what's weird with cameras is I would argue that I see more of instead of like external battles, like instead of Sony versus Fuji or Canon versus Nikon anymore,
Yeah.
I think you see more of the bickering within the community
Yes.
instead of externally. Like, I don't think that anyone's out here going, "Oh, nice busted ass Nikon, loser." Like, I don't think anyone's
It's like that movie, The Warriors, but instead it's like the camera dork version. It's like, yo, we
Yes.
only shoot with cannons in this alley, bro.
That's
Okay,
right,
you take that Sony out of
100%.
here, or we're gonna beat your ass.
I don't think that's not happening.
They all have like jean
Instead,
jackets with Sony logos on them.
just the A.
Totally. I'm part of the A1
Instead,
street gang. Yeah.
you've just got a lot of like the inner community or intra community arguing
Yeah.
and bickering and
Isn't there plenty of that and lack of joy elsewhere in your life? Like these are supposed to be the places where like you can talk about something that makes you happy, and these people
yeah.
are just like shitting all over it all the time. But
At least
yeah,
in the old days where it felt like the lines were clearly drawn. Oh, I understand why they're fighting because they think this is the better thing than the other
yeah,
thing. Now it's like, I think to me, the bow that I'll put on this conversation is, to me, the more troubling thing. And I think this is what goes back to like, just try to think about the conversations that you want. I mean, years ago, I left Facebook because I just felt myself being drawn into arguments
yeah,
constantly
yeah,
with people I knew in real life, not strangers.
yeah, yep,
And I was like, I don't need this. I don't it,
exactly.
like this is changing the way that I look at like people that I know and I know to be good people. And like
Yeah,
I'm starting to think they're idiots
yeah,
based on
yeah,
opinions or things that they're saying, not even thinking. They're just
yeah,
just putting it out on Facebook. It's not like that is not an indication of who that person is or
right.
real life in any kind of way. And I just had to walk away from it. And it's kind of like from then on out, if like I'm going to engage with something and I'm going to spend time on it, I want it to be something that's going to impact my life positively instead of
Yes,
taking something away.
yeah, dude.
Right.
Seriously, it's very tough, and like I'm definitely an empath, and so that was exhausting for me. I took a bunch of years off of Facebook. I just killed my account, disappeared for a little while for like a few years, which was rare for me being a social media guy, but like I just had to do it, and I was so much happier because I didn't see as much negativity and I wasn't ending up like hating people that I was really good friends with for like 30 years. And I didn't hate them because they were had a different opinion than I did, but their way of communicating where you're like, man, that guy was always so cool at the barbecue, but you get him on the internet and I just want to like beat the crap out of that guy. It's
Yeah.
just
It's like
treating
the
people like
nuance.
yeah, it's
The
real weird.
nuance is removed. Like, for instance, like if you're seeing friends and this friend offers up like maybe something slightly political
Yeah.
in conversation and you're kind of like, oh and in that context though, you're hopefully, God, I hope so, hopefully you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and hear them out and
Yeah.
then maybe even probe a little bit with like trying to like get them to restate or kind of clarify exactly what they're saying before
Yeah.
you just like, oh, I can't talk to this person anymore, or I have to like defend, whatever side of the aisle that I feel like I have to defend, or defend whatever people I think this person is trampling all over, or
Yeah.
whatever else. Hopefully, it would be more of a conversation rather than on the internet. The nuance is gone.
Yeah.
It's just like idiot. Look at the everyone. Look at the idiot that
Yeah,
just
dog pile, time to dog pile. And the crazy thing
yeah
too, I was actually, having a conversation. So I have a 16-year-old stepdaughter, and then I have a 20, how old is he now? A 21-year-old stepson who we're all hanging out. And I said, what is your guys's, based on your ages, what's your perception of how you see adults behaving on the internet right now? And
yeah
the 21-year-old was like, he's used to it. He's been on the internet. He's been on Snapchat. He's been on TikTok and all those long enough to see that's like there's a bunch of dip out there or whatever. But like
right
my stepdaughter was like, I just don't understand like why everybody is so negative and pissed off all the time. And like
yeah
the thing that she was acting more mature about what she was seeing online than all the grown ass adults that are on the internet just trashing each other and acting like the children that
yeah
they could be, or maybe they were when they were actual children, but now they're like a 60-year-old trapped in a pissed off 12-year-old's body out there on the internet just saying whatever, and everybody's
yeah
reacting to it. And it's like the kids are like, I don't know what's wrong with the adults right now, but you guys are like bonkers town. And it's really sad to me because we actually are supposed to be the ones who set a good example, and we should be a role model for communication. But until the internet existed, I didn't realize how irrational and incapable people were emotionally and psychologically of just having a normal adult conversation without wrecking somebody, like,
yeah. And the thing
uh,
is, I would say 80% of the people you want to argue with on the internet, you'd have a very civil and nice conversation with if you met them in real life.
totally.
Because the rules change.
I literally have friends like that where we spent years together barbecuing, hanging out. I hung out with their kids. They were cool. We went shooting together at the range. We just do all kinds of stuff, and it was all gravy, dude. And then
Yeah.
once I got a friend request, from that guy. I'm like, yeah, I've known this dude forever. And then we
He's
get on there, and
great. Oh my
he's
god.
just like pecking and needling everybody and trying to get reactions because he thinks it's funny. And I'm like, dude, you're one of the few people who's actually dragging down the entire internet. And then when they start doing it on my threads, then I
Yeah.
get pissed because I'm like, dude, my mom is on there, and you just like
Yeah.
are dicking around with like trying to get her upset about
That's
stuff. Like,
wild to
what are
me.
you
See, like,
doing, dude?
Facebook is still super wild to me just because,
It
like,
is. I hate it. I
it's
100%
different in the
hate it.
sense that, years ago, their whole thing was like, well, we'll counter incivility with kind of like, this is your identity. This is you saying these things and
Yeah.
your profile picture and your employment history and school
Yep.
history and everything else on this one page. And people just, bro, they don't care. They
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
The anonymity, I would say it definitely can amplify some of the negative stuff,
Yeah.
but I mean,
I think the more shocking thing to me is, so when I quit Facebook, I spent a lot more time on LinkedIn. It's like, cool, I can have a break from that crap. Let's just talk about business jargon. It'll give me a platform to write some blog posts about marketing strategies and experiences and learn stuff from a business perspective. And then
uh-huh.
after all the elections, everybody's like, you know what?
Oh
I don't
man.
care that I'm a COO. I'm going to say this like
Yeah.
wretched in public where people can actually look up my company.
I
Like,
know.
have any of you been PR or media trained whatsoever? Can any of you not behave like a child? You all say, hey, this belongs on Facebook, but then out of the other side of your face, you'll say something totally immature and irreverent and attack somebody personally and call them a bunch of names. I'm like, dude, you're a C-suite executive. What are you doing right now,
Yeah, I
dude?
mean, there was a brief window, I don't know if you remember this, but, like, where LinkedIn was kind of like, "Oh, wait, this might be cool, like, this might be Facebook," like, the early because like, I remember signing up with Facebook as soon as
Yeah.
I got my, college email address.
Oh, okay.
'Cause so I graduated from high school in 2005, and so I
Yeah, and
got
that's
my
about when it was taken off. Yeah.
right, and so, and I remember having to wait for them to add. I went to the University of Alabama, and so I had to wait for them to, like, add, and then when they added it, so I remember I have all these kind of, like, crazy, like, weird, Facebook, memories. I remember people meeting someone on the sidewalk between classes for the first time, or meeting someone in class and then getting back to my dorm room and having like a friend request from somebody. And it was really cool. It was kind of like this
Yeah.
weird word IMing, and it's also, but we're sharing photos
And
and
it was not
writing on
as
each other's.
it wasn't as crappy as MySpace. Like, it actually had a
No, it was
clean,
nice.
consistent layout that loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there was
exactly.
like a window, and then obviously they opened it up from the .edu thing, and so then it was like everybody's parents were on there, and it was just really messy and weird. And then all the email stuff that used to be like email chains started getting posted on Facebook, and
Yeah.
there was this brief window. I would probably say 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe 9 or 10 years ago. But like, whereas like, oh, maybe LinkedIn is starting to feel. It was very professional. It was
Yeah.
clean. It was very collegial. It was kind of like you were meeting people in real life and then
Yeah.
friending them on LinkedIn, or vice versa. Um, and it was very similar in that way. And then they just, and like everyone was kind of like under this code. It felt like, of we don't want this to be
Exactly.
Facebook,
Yeah.
and then it became Facebook,
Yeah.
and now it's
Totally.
just
It's chaos now, dude.
Facebook,
Yeah.
essentially. And but like a weird, if you felt like Facebook could get you a job, what would you do on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Or what performative professional stuff would you do on LinkedIn, right? That's so LinkedIn has that too. So it's Facebook,
Yeah.
but with more grifting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And also, people decided that LinkedIn was a great place to share the most personal stuff ever. And I'm like, dude, did you really just talk about that like crazy that happened in your family on LinkedIn? And that's all that that post is about? Like,
Because that's where their
what
audience
are
is,
you
dude.
doing? Yeah. And then, but you can
Yeah.
find some of those people. You'll see them, they'll have their own like business page on Facebook, and then they'll have an Instagram account, and they will literally post this very personal thing on their business page and their LinkedIn profile. And you're like, bro, that nobody needs to see that. Like, save that for your therapist, okay, or your partner. I
Right.
don't know. Like,
I
what are you
think
doing?
I think the coda to all of this is y'all
Yeah.
just need to chill the hell out.
Yeah.
Like all of you,
Yeah.
everyone. Just
Take a breath.
calm down, take a breath,
And if you see
and
something online that you want to
enjoy.
freak, if you see something online you want to freak out to, stop, set your phone down, get away from the computer, go run around the block and come back, and you'll be like, I don't even need to say what I was about to say. Like, seriously.
Promise.
Yeah. Well,
Promise.
I'm on board with,
I would say type it out, don't send it,
yeah.
walk away, come back, and I guarantee you won't. You'll be like, "There's no what is the point anymore?"
Yeah.
It's all in the heat of the
100%.
moment. It's that instant gratification.
And you got to understand too that any of your strong opinions right now, you're probably going to change a week later. So it really just doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
You know,
Nothing matters.
nobody matters. Full nihilism
Nothing.
right now. Here we go.
Nobody. Yes.
All right. Well, I think that's good for this episode. So we will catch you guys next time. Thank you very much for listening, hanging out. We're at 40 minutes, so that's shorter than an hour. But
It is shorter. We did it, Rich.
again, all right, cool. Well,
We
thanks,
did it.
guys. We will talk to you soon.
Later.
See ya.